So exercise, the kids can run out and play a little bit and can take breaks, which they can't do in class. So in that way, it's an advantage at home, this online schooling. The next thing is we have to find out that are these patients going to, once the COVID is over, is the anxiety going to subside? Do they need some medication or anything? Most times they don't. Or are they obsessive compulsive, or do they have problems with germophobia? Are they very obsessive? Are they getting into trouble? Do they need things like cognitive behavior therapy? But before it gets so severe, most of our patients are helped by our coaches, and many of them are taking their medication. And the rules for ADHD medication is different during COVID than non-COVID. So what can the coaches help the patients that come in having?
Sorry, Dr. Jeeva, I broke up there.
Patients that don't have structure, what type of help can the coaches
give them? So
that's
definitely something that we do. So we look at your life and say, okay, so where are you not managing? And then we put structure into your life. So the most important thing is you have a sense of achievement, a sense of closeness to others, and a sense of enjoyment, because that's what helps with depression. And the last 2 weeks, I've seen a lot of people really struggle because of the weather. And the weather seems to play a big role in some people's lives. So by putting structure in place, you have a sense of progression, and your progression equals happiness. So you need to put in place every single day, be regular in whatever you do. And that really seems to help. Samaya, Anita, Jerry, what have you found?
That's me.
Yes.
So what really helped for me is, so I used to have reminders. So I had a timetable for my day when COVID started, but I wasn't in time to my, so a reminder would come on and then I would check the reminder, but that also failed because I would just ignore the reminder. My voice. It's an app. I think it's about 35 Rand a month. It's very cheap. There are free ones, but the one that I found is very effective. And you set up your reminders. So I have a reminder to take out meat for the next day. I have a reminder for every appointment I've got, every client I've got, that is running my life, because without that, so it's like a prompt. So with ADHD, you need to externalize everything. You're not going to check your diary. I mean, if you're very disciplined, I know Tracy's very disciplined with her diary, but diary went out the window. I didn't even buy a new diary. So this voice prompt reminder. So you can set it up. You can set up one reminder every day at the same time for certain things. I mean, you can remind yourself to drink water. You put your gym schedule on it. You say 15 minutes before gym at 5 o'clock. So it's your own voice telling you what to do. So that's helped me with my schedule. I don't know if that's going to work. I'll put the app up in the comments. I'll just get the name of it. But you just go into your app store and you type in voice reminders. So that's helped me quite a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while going through all this and thinking about it, I came across 8 tips for working and learning at home, because many of the parents are already at home and they're tired and they have a long haul, and they've done a great job so far, and I hope they continue. And we had a big scare in the beginning of COVID, and we took it easy, and South Africa was number 5 in the world of COVID, down to number 24. So things are improving, but things are still scary. So the first thing on these tips that I'm looking at is set a start time and an end time for work. And this is usually for the adults, because at home you can get very comfortable, PJs, don't want you to be in your PJs, and you can continue working past supper and say, oh, I forgot to shower, I forgot to change my PJs. So they want you to get up on time. Time is very important for the ADHD kids and young adults. You have to preferably get up like going to work, and you dress in your nice suit, and not suit, but I mean you dress decently, not your PJs, and look decent and look like you're going to do some good work. And and then at the same time, you must decide beforehand, are you going to stop work at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever time? So you have to keep that. The main thing that's missing in all this is the routine in the morning. Because the kids have 4 areas of problems. One is the morning, second is the homework, third is the sleep, and fourth is the screen time. This is our enemy. Today, before we end, we're going to talk about screen time, because that is what steals our time. And that's the difference. That's the difference between kids doing well and not well at school. So the root.
Dr. Jeeva, can you just go back and just say your recommended screen time as what you would recommend? Because this is a big problem, and it's become a worse problem with COVID as to what you recommend the screen time to be during the week and the weekend, regardless.
Okay, during non-COVID time, the American kids get 1 hour between Monday and Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they get 2 hours. Now, during COVID time, it's just like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you get 2 hours every day. So they got extra. But now, the thing is now they're going to start school next week. And the days they are at school, that's non-COVID. So you have to not be too strict, but you've got to be within the 2 hour limit. If they want more time, then they have to either give you better marks or clean their room or wash the dishes or help you bake or something. They can buy the time from you. So for every, if they clean the room and all, they can get half an hour more, or if they set the table and everything, you can get another half an hour more. You make, on the fridge, you make a list. For cleaning the table, you get half an hour, but you make a whole lot of lists, and whatever they want more time, don't complain, don't cry with me, go see what work you can do, and you can earn your own time. The other thing, just like Anita said, we have an app called Our Pact, O-U-R space P-A-C-T. Now this app is for the parents. You can put it in your phone, and you can program all the electronics that your kids are using, so that it will just go off. If you program 2 hours, first you decide with them that, look, I'm only going to give you 2 hours. You can have it 2 hours one shot, or you can have 1 hour twice a day, or you can have half an hour 4 times, whatever, it's 2 hours. So you program it and it will just go off, and you won't be fighting with the child, or you won't be arguing with them. It will just go off, and you have to start training them. The background to all of this is that ADHD likes stimulation. So we like things when we press button, it jumps back to us and it talks to us, and that's how we enjoy it. So the ADHD kids could spend 9 hours on PlayStation, Game Boy and all that, and they could spend 9 minutes on schoolwork. So this is the story, you see. So if it's holiday in that, they can, I suppose they can do 9 hours and go through the lunch and supper. But during school days, you have to discipline them and discuss it with them and keep them on track. Now, the little problem we have, they do online learning and they also do other research. So you have to be careful that them playing games and doing other things and chatting with their friends and all is different from the learning, because they could just say, I'm researching my work and all that. So sometimes the parents are strict and they get the passwords and everything. But everything during COVID, you have to go with the flow. The thing is, you mustn't use a microscopic view on the studies, or on the getting up, on the sleeping, on the screen time. You've got to be able to give more breaks, let them play a little bit more, because it is in a way for the kids indirectly a holiday. So you don't have to every little thing, oh, you 2 hours and 1 minute, oh, it's too much, and you're going to get punished and all. No. Play it by ear, use your discretion, but generally the formula is Monday to Thursday, 1 hour during non-COVID days, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday is 2 hours, and COVID days is 2 hours every day, and you can work with that.
No, I agree 100%. That is called helicopter pilot mothering or fathering or parenting. And the most complaints I've heard are actually of the parents that is trying to do this. And we had this discussion last week as well, and I'm so glad you touched on it. people don't understand the concept of the reward system. So that is how you earn your dopamine rush for the day, by helping out. And that is by giving the kids the routine and the structure, even in this COVID time. If they keep at that and there's a nice reward at the end, they are going to work harder for you because they want that dopamine rush. But we also have to encourage them, remember, 45 minutes, and then let them run around for 15 minutes a little bit and get some fresh air, just so that they can just recoup a little bit. We have to relook at the whole thing because school is starting next week. 1 day on, 1 day off. And we've got to find what works best for your child or what works best for you as an adult. It's not, unfortunately, a one size fits all. So you're going to try a lot of things and you'll find one that works. And that is why we're all here, to give our opinions and to ask, to answer your questions. So guys, please, I'm looking at the chat box. If there is anything that anybody wants to know, pop it in here and I'll bring it up as and when there's a space between Dr. Jeeva and
So
Tracy.
the problem does come more with adults. So it's not even more with children. Adults are now having the screen time problem. And it's becoming a bigger addiction than before. Hey, Dr. J?
Yes, definitely. And of course, then they share and they play games together. So then you have to give your child extra 2 hours. So that is an issue. The way we explain to the kids that all the screen time fries your brain and it causes a condition called digital dementia. Dementia is forgetting like older people. But the Germans feel that it's irreversible. They won't learn and they won't as much as they could and should, and they'll start forgetting. So that's why we have to discipline them and keep it within a certain time. Now, in the tips that we started earlier, these are adult tips. So for the adults, I had 8 tips and we were only on the second one. So you're going to designate a special area for you to work. You can't just work in a dining room or in the kitchen or in a bedroom because then everybody's on top of the other. So you choose a place in your house where you're going to be studying or you're going to be doing your work. And there's certain things you'll expect from the kids, from the housekeeper, from other people, and that's so you're able to manage your job on one side, your teachers on the other side online, and the kids doing homework, and they have to play, and the ADHD itself. So there's many things happening, and it's like a potpourri of things. You got to pull here and push there and do all these things. So you're doing a great job so far. The other things, you mustn't forget that we have to schedule breaks so that they don't get tired and then they don't want to concentrate and they don't want to work. Now, online learning is similar to school learning in some ways where the kids have to focus. But many parents have been a bit lenient on the kids and not giving them medications if they are on medications in the morning properly, or they prefer lower doses. If they don't give it to them, then it takes longer and harder for them to retain. It doesn't mean that they have to sit still and all that, but the retention is important because when exams comes or tests, they have to give it back and do well, and the retention is the problem. So it doesn't mean that if you stop the medication, you're doing advantage to the child. We're not worried about the child sitting and running around in class. We're worried about him learning and retaining. So it's very important that you try your best to continue the medication. If you feel you want to reduce the medication or you want to change it, talk to your doctor. More than likely, we'll get a Corners rating scale to see a feedback, how the kids are doing. And we could consider that, but you have to put in your breaks and you've got to put in your exercise and other playthings. In the very early part of COVID, the mothers are saying, oh, we're teaching our kids to bake biscuits and we're teaching them this and this and that. And that's very exciting. It's good to try all these things or play board game. But the main treatment, as I said about ADHD, is exercise. So don't forget, they have to run around. They can't just run to the TV room and play station and move their fingers. They're going to move their legs. So that's very important. I'm just continuing this list and then you guys can take over. The other thing is that all the area where you're not working, it has to be tidy and clutter-free because the kids will be running around. They have their own room. The adults will have a specific office and that. And in the tips for the adults working at home, they said you must take sick days. Now, I don't think you must be sick, but it means you must take some days off. So you can't work 24/7 because you easily get in a habit of working 7 days a week from home, and you pass dinner time, pass everything. So you don't even socialize with your children. Your wife doesn't, your spouse doesn't see you. And we have to worry that we don't go past our limits. You have to have a 9 to 5 or whatever hours you guys decide. Now, loneliness and anxiety and depression is a very big problem for ADHD adolescents, and they get very frustrated. They prefer to be at school where they can socialize, they're not isolated, they can see their friends, they can run around the field, they can smoke, they can do all the things they're not supposed to do. So at home, they are stuck and you are at the microscope looking at them. So you must give them a chance to communicate with their friends on Zoom or Skype or WhatsApp or whatever they're using. You have to over-communicate and stay connected, not regular communicate. And you have to see that they grow, they develop in this time. Now, your child won't be behind compared to other kids because the whole world is in this situation. Everybody is going slow. So everybody will be at the same level. So don't be afraid that your child will miss out a lot. Kids are very resilient. They'll pick up very fast. So by the time they finish their matric and all, they'll be where you want them to be. So don't be afraid. Be kind to them, be gentle with them, and look for the positive things. The last thing before I switch speakers is that many kids, ADHD kids, are brought up what we call in a CDE environment. They're criticized, they demand it, and they expect it. Criticize, your marks are bad, criticize. C, D, on Tuesday, I won 80%. Today, you got 25%. And then Tuesday night, where's the marks? Of course, from 25, you'll get 40%, not 80%. So this is how we've been brought up by our parents. This is how we've been brought up by our teachers, our friends, our spouses, our bosses, everywhere. And that's where we learn, we get criticized. So maybe, Tracy, this is a good time for you to talk about RSD.
Yeah, so RSD is rejection sensitive dysphoria. So about 90% of people with ADHD have this dysphoria. So you actually feel you're being rejected when you're really not. And I always teach my clients as one skill, as in, so we all have so let's just have an exercise of between, say, Dr. Jeeva and I, we have space. Okay, so there's space between him and I. In the space, he says something to me. So Dr. Jeeva says to me, Tracy, you are lazy. So when I see he says that, I put it into a word bubble. Tracy, you are lazy. Okay, so there's space between him and I. You are lazy. So in the space, I look at it and I say, okay, so what meaning? So the power I have is what meaning am I going to give what he's saying to me as to how I'm going to either respond or react. So when you learn the pause with ADHD, you learn to take space. So there's a saying that says, in between, okay, space, we have the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. So we need to look at it and say, okay, so what meaning am I choosing to give it? So is he right? No, he's not. So I'll say to him, that's interesting. Why do you say that? So I don't give it meaning. So RSD is about you feeling so sensitive, you're immediately giving it meaning about yourself. We learn with ADHD in the skills to take space, put it into a word bubble, and what meaning do I choose to give it so I can learn to respond, not react. And that is really a process, because with ADHD people, we have this automatic Ferrari brain, bicycle brakes, and we don't put space. We need to learn to put space, because that's where our power is. And that's the most important thing, is because everything we're feeling is because of what we mean, what meaning we're giving it. So that's one of the skills we learn in the coaching, is in take a step back, put space, and then choose what meaning you're going to give it. And you really do have that choice if you're aware. So if you 96 to 98% of our behavior is automatic pilot. So this over here creates consciousness, and you're aware. So if you're aware, you can change it. If you're not aware, you can't change it. And that's what the coaching does, make you aware. Self-awareness is everything.
So I have an interesting stat on that rejection dysphoria from Dr. Barkley, who's, as Dr. Jeeva says, is our godfather of ADHD. So 50 to 70% of ADHD children are rejected by friends by the 2nd grade. So that's also the poor emotional impulsiveness and emotion. So you're already dealing with that rejection from a young age. So I think that's where it stems from. It stems from, oh, you can't concentrate, and then your personal, your relationships, your friends also get strained because you're different.
I think sorry, Tracy. I think there's the RSD is experienced most of the time by the people closest to you. That's where you're going to experience it most. So it's your friends and your family. And also another thing, just to tie in everything that Dr. Jeeva and Tracy have spoken about as well. In the, when he talks about the way we reprimand and discipline kids, and I'm not here to say it's easy on anyone, but especially during this time where there's an increase in being locked down with each other, I think it's very important to also self-reflect that as adults and as parents, we're not playing the same track towards our kids. You didn't do this and you didn't do that, and when will you do this? Because without even realizing it, the improvements that they have been made tend to get overlooked as well, especially when the adults are battling with screen time themselves. And the other thing is, when dealing with these heightened emotions, I know personally it's not always easy to get that space in between. And when we do teach these skills, remember that space doesn't mean that you're denying anything that's happening or you're sweeping those emotions under the rug. I think one of the biggest things that helps to soothe those emotions or even dilute the intensity of it is to acknowledge and own that emotion. So it's not about, letting it slide or sweeping it under the carpet and saying, okay, this doesn't matter. No, it does matter. Whatever emotion that you're going through, especially when it comes to irritation, frustration, and anger, it's important to own that emotion and then deal with it appropriately so that it doesn't build up as well.
Absolutely. I agree. So it's always about, for me, automatic thoughts. Remember, automatic thoughts, we live most of our lives on automatic pilot. Unless something happens, there's break. So this creates consciousness, and this is where change happens. And this is where you're able to make a different meaning of things, which can make a different thought pattern for you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Oh,
hello.
Okay, so I've been, everybody, hello, Dr. Jeeva. I and Tracy, thank you for having me here. I have come to a place, I've been through immense trauma in my life, and I used to react very badly to any negative comment about me or anything that I felt was a attack on me, and everything I took very personally. I've come to a stage where I've learned to, by the way, DBT helped me a lot with this, but to be able to, I've got a rule, is to stand back, and obviously the pause rule, but to stand back and reflect and to be able to place whatever a person's saying in a box and say, is this true? Is this for me? Or is it just their opinion? And it's okay to allow somebody to have their opinion, but it doesn't mean it has to be my truth. And it's been a very empowering thing for me to be able to stand back, reflect, and I don't have to respond immediately to what anybody is saying at that given time. I can just listen and hear them out. It doesn't mean that that what they're saying is actually true about me. And they're allowed to have their opinion or to say what they want to say, but it doesn't mean that I have to take that internally and make that my truth. And it's been a very powerful thing for me, and it takes a lot of practice. It's taken many years of practice to be able to stand back and then reflect and take the time and then decide if I want to respond to that or not, and what I'm going to do with that information. And that's really been me a practice of, okay, that person's entitled to feeling the way or to say what they feel, but it doesn't mean that it has stuff, and it can be their stuff, but I don't have to take that on board. And the initial reaction has always been to react and to take it on board and to make it my truth. And it is something that, Tracy, I totally agree with you, that's something that one has to be in a conscious state of mind, present, to be able to stand back and to know your own truth. You know, I have a very practical thing that I did, and it's, what do you want in your bubble? And I have 2 bubbles, and there's certain factors and certain words that I will not have in my bubble, and there's some type of people and some type of words that I won't have, and some things that are safe for me that I will. And the minute I'm aware, if I've written those things down and I'm aware of the things that I don't want in my bubble, when things come up that I don't want, I can stand back and say, okay, hang on, that's not good for me, or that's something that I don't have to take in. And I think it's that awareness of the things that will cause me to react in a way that is not helpful to me or to the other person, whoever it is that I'm relating to. And it's in that awareness and the consciously in that present moment, stand back. Okay, I'm going to wait on this thing before I do anything about it, or go and think about it and reflect. And I've also come to a place of, you know, feelings are feelings, and emotions and expressions are expressions, but they are also facts. And someone can have their own truth, but that doesn't have to be my truth, and that doesn't have to become me. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And by the way, I've just had COVID, and it's been a very tough process for me. It's been the only thing that's getting me through recovering. I'm struggling with long haul symptoms of fatigue, which is very difficult. But the only thing that's really helping me is doing little things every day and having that structure, no matter how sick I feel, to make my bed, to stand up, to do the basics, to take my tablets, to take my break, have my breakfast, and to have a structured day. And to other thing I wanted to say that I've listened to someone talk about is energy banking. We all have an amount of energy and time in a day, and if we do too much and we bank your energy, we are going to crash. So right now I've had to really reevaluate my energy banking and my concentration span, and where my and the other thing is, and the motivation, the reward, is a gemery. It's, I totally agree with you, it's so important, because if there is no reward, that energy banky is like kind of chewed up so quickly with ADHD. It's completely breaks the concentration, and to have that reward in various different types, I feel, not just one type of reward, but different types that stimulate different parts in the brain to bring on that reward and that stimulation, and to then bring in the concentration level. Very important.
So I don't know, there's more questions, we'll take them, but we got to keep as close as to normal during COVID. That means you can't let your kids sleep at 2 a.m. and get up at 8 o'clock for class, or 7 o'clock for classes, because then they only have 5 hours of sleep. So they say the most you can vary is about an hour. So get them to sleep as close as possible that you'd normally do. Maybe Friday and Saturday, because there's no classes, and you can let them sleep a bit later. That's one thing. Eating habits, it's very easy to, at home, if nobody's monitoring it, you tend to eat junk like chocolates and sweets and that. Sure, you can have a little bit of a treat, but you could still eat healthy as you always ate, especially the ADHD kids. They need a high protein diet and low carbs. The next thing is, we talked a lot about exercise. Now, the thing about exercise, it's not just because they got too much energy and they want to run around. The other thing about ADHD and exercise is that it produces more dopamine and no adrenaline. These are the neurotransmitters that are short in ADHD. So exercise is imperative. Then next, you talk about meditation. Tracy, you want to talk about mindfulness a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the greatest practices we use in ADHD, as in mindfulness. So mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present tense and non-judgmentally. It means living in the now. So many of us live in our past, or we live in the future. And unfortunately, the happiest of people have learned to live in the now. So right here, right now, if all of you have to not, okay, so you have two things. You have time and you have focus of attention. So if you bring your focus of attention into the here and now, don't go back, don't go forward. Live here right now. So if you live here right now, life is actually really good. It's only the past or the future that creates problems. So the past we're meant to learn from, the future is rooted in the unknown. So anxiety, which a lot of us actually struggle with, is rooted in the fear of the unknown. So we underestimate our ability to cope and we exaggerate the danger. So mindfulness is be here. And how we live here is with our five senses, what we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. So this is a really good skill for any type of therapy, no matter what you're going through, is just be present. Come back to now. Notice what you don't normally notice. Okay. And because we've got Ferrari brains, bicycle brakes, we're not used to doing that. So just be present. Come back to now. So the coaches, we really focus on that, mindfulness activities. And John, you there? Can you unmute yourself? So John is a specialist. He's also a life skills coach, and he's spent 15 years at the School of Philosophy, and he focuses on mindfulness. So John, can you just give us a little briefing on mindfulness?
Yeah, hello everybody. I think my picture's not very good.
It's good enough.
Yeah, I think living in the moment is
John, you look like John Travolta.
I do. Thank you so much. I don't know if that's a compliment. How am I supposed to take that?
You're doing well.
Yeah, I think the first thing what I do is I say, what would a wise person do right now? So I think that's my pause. That's what I do when I pause. So there's many different tricks. You could sort of say, what is the world for me now? But my background, I think I started off with pausing, and you start by pausing. So whatever activity you do, you start by pausing. You say, okay, let's pause, let's bring everything to, and then you start an activity. The other thing that's really powerful is to pay attention. So what happens is you do activities with attention. So when kids are baking cakes or whatever they're doing or cleaning, you must do it with attention. And when you pay attention, this is what education really is all about. Teaching people how to pay attention. So if you look at your whole school career, they didn't really teach you maths. They didn't teach you English. They taught you how to pay attention. And if you can't pay attention, it's quite a harsh statement, is you're of no use to anybody if you can't pay attention. So I've got ADHD employees, you know, people that grow up and they haven't learned to pay attention. And it manifests as not being able to follow instructions. So you give instructions, and then you come back half an hour later and you can see that there's been a whole lot of distractions. You've been distracted and you've forgotten what the instruction was. And this happens in COVID times when you're at home and you say, okay, you wake up in the morning and you say, today I'm going to do this. And along the way, you get distracted. So we are ADHD, all of us, because we cannot pay attention. So paying attention goes together with mindfulness, because when you pay attention, your mind is still. You'll notice that. Because
So
you
John,
cannot pay attention if your mind isn't still.
So John,
So
what do you think is a one good practical skill to give everybody here tonight? One is what is a starting point for paying attention?
Interesting. Well, whatever you do, every activity that you do, from a physical point of view, when you do, try this at home, okay, and see what happens. So if you're wiping a surface, if you're cleaning something, pay attention to where the surfaces are meeting. So if you're dusting something, pay attention to the surface that you're dusting. When you're washing dishes, pay attention to the surfaces that you are working with. That's the starting point. So if you do that, see how it works. So that basically leads to you doing it consciously. You're not just cleaning a dish mechanically. You're not doing something mechanically, like it's like just a habit. So you will notice when people do things, they're not really paying attention to what they're doing. They're just doing it mechanically. Just like when you go to a supermarket and the person's just putting the stuff through the till mechanically. They're not doing it consciously. So they're not there. They're somewhere else. In their minds, they're somewhere else. So they're just doing the job mechanically. And if something happens that isn't part of the process, it just goes past them. So that's the and then that surface that's called working with the surface and paying attention to the surface. So your whole life is about working with surfaces, what it is. Because working with your mind is a surface that you're working with. You're constantly polishing it. And then when you're working with people, that's another surface. So you're paying attention to that surface that you're working with. And that surface keeps changing all the time. It's not a constant. Working with a plate is just a nice flat surface.
Yeah.
So carry on. Am I going on and on?
No.
You've got those cards, hey Trace, those mindfulness cards.
Yes.
So we use. Just wanted to give you some ideas. So there's a pack of cards that you can buy, and you can even make your own pack of cards. So you take the deck of cards and you'll pull one and it'll say mindful shower.
Yes.
So it'll say just for today, get in the shower when you usually get in the shower and just shower. Smell the soap, feel the sensation. Because I think that's when the thoughts come in. We're showering on automatic pilot. We're brushing our teeth on automatic pilot. So the cards are nice because you choose one every day. So it's like paying mindful attention to the wind. So you're rushing around, you're going to a meeting, going here. That card is a nice reminder to say, hey, let me see what's happening with the wind. I mean, there's even one card that says, look up. So you look up and you look at your ceiling, or you look at the sky, or it's also looking at things that we take for granted. So the cards, but schedule mindfulness in. So say, I'm going to do 10 minutes of mindfulness every day. So I'm going to focus on one activity and I'm going to mindfully do it. And put an alarm on your phone.
The most dangerous thing about mindfulness is when you're watching TV. When you watch TV, you must become aware of what is your mind doing right now while you're watching TV. Where is your mind? And I see it with my dad. He's watching TV, but he's not there.
Yeah.
If you tell him, if you ask him, what have you just seen? He won't be able to tell you because his mind was somewhere else.
Yeah.
So this is the thing with media and with YouTube and with television. You're not interacting with anybody, you're watching movies. So the most dangerous thing for children is watching television. And what are they watching? And what is their little mind doing while they're watching television? And this is the biggest, I think this is the biggest cause of ADHD, because kids are not being taught how to pay attention. It's about daydreaming and being somewhere else. And then it goes into the adult life, where you become an adult and you can't pay attention.
So Dr. J, how do you take it? Thanks, John. How do you take it from there so we don't pay attention? We just automatic pilot. How do we achieve?
Yeah, but the thing is, ADHD is a neurobiological condition, so there's a chemical imbalance. So we have to take that into account. Because of that, we can't pay attention because dopamine shortage and no adrenaline, and we have to make this thing and get it up. And dopamine is when you feel lekker, when you feel good. So these kids at home, anything that's lekker, they pay attention. Anything that's not lekker, they don't pay attention. So if their mind is on a game and the TV is on there, but their mind is somewhere else. So that is more feeling lekker or feeling better. There's more dopamine there than here. So we have to see how we can introduce dopamine type of things into their so-called boring life or into the boring times of the day. So they don't have spurts of continuous boredom. They have excitement, boredom, excitement, and that's alternating. So it's very, very important that we make it more exciting in their learning and in their relationships. And for adults to working too much or workaholic is a form of getting more dopamine. They like to work. So that is part of the ADHD. It's not that they overwork just because they want more finances or something. It's feeling good. So time, chocolate, coffee, Coke, Red Bull, drugs, alcohol, Tiger Woods, having affairs, all these things increase the dopamine, no adrenaline. So if you are not treated, that's what we go for. And so if you are treated and you still go for that thing, that means your treatment is not adequate. So you might need more coaching, or you might have to realign your medications or have more psychotherapy or something, but you can't be having treatment and still getting into trouble. Then there's something is not optimized in the treatment. So we have to work with people all the time.
You see, with mindfulness, you have to go above the thing of what you like and what you don't like. So you have to force yourself to pay attention to stuff that you don't like, and also pay attention to the stuff that you do like. So you have to move beyond that. And that is an act of will.
But mindfulness is helpful.
Drugs can't do that. I mean, drug won't tell me, listen, you have to fire this person, even if you like it or you don't like it, you have to do this.
If I can just add to John's comment, and John knows me, he's probably going to kill me for saying this, but I think we got to do whatever works for us. And like Dr. Jeeva says as well, there's a combination of medication and coaching skills that we need to put into practice. But if we had to add on to John's skills, just for example, just one of them, when he talks about pause, for me personally, something like pausing aggravates me, and John knows this because I've done mindfulness with him. So if you had to add that and just one up it, and when he talks about, ask yourself what would the wise man say, add an added benefit would be the wise man is actually you. So that would give you the boost to want to do the thing that you don't want to do. If you are not the person who can easily pause in that intense situation, then you got to make it exciting for you. And I think this is what he's talking about, having to do the things that you don't want to do. It's that having that patience in a moment of anger will prevent 1,000 moments of regret. And I think it's just to add that little bit of spice John's got a skill where he's extremely soothing. I mean, I've been for his mindfulness exercises. We've done them together. And for me, sometimes soothingness and stuff that's soothing, especially when you're in that intense feeling, it can aggravate you more. So I think just to add that spice to whatever skills that you're talking about, when he talks about, you know, cleaning the countertops or washing dishes mindfully, you know, ADHD, when you burn that curry, use that pot to scrub up. That's going to help you.
That's so clever.
So just add that little bit, you for you.
No, I agree. So mindfulness is a great tool. So there's many tools. Like Dr. Jeeva said, the biggest tool is actually exercise. Exercise. Medication is another tool. Coaching is another tool. Diet is another tool. So wherever you're at, because ADHD presents itself differently, so it's one thing, but it's so many things. You've got to find what works for you.
But mindfulness is one of the best tools that's not used enough, and more and more people are interested in using it. So that's great. At least we have another tool, and it makes a lot of sense, but it's hard to reach the level that John is at for every child or adolescent, but we're all working towards that.
Yeah.
So great tool.
I agree with Dr. Jeeva. We need to just remember it's not just about the meds. It's not just about the skills. It's not just about this or that. What we do at the end of the day, between Dr. Jeeva, Tracy, and the rest of us as coaches, is we look at everyone from a holistic point of view. So if meds work for you, it helps you, great. Skill sets with ADHD, great. We combine everything and put it together so that you find what works for you at the end of the day. So what is working for one will not work for the other. So we need to just remember it's the full picture that we all look at so that we can make sure that we teach you the skills, and Dr. Jeeva helps you on the medication side if you like that or need it or works for you, so that it's a combined fix at the end of the day.
Yeah, so it's not either or. It's not one is better than the other.
No.
They complement each other.
Yes.
So it's not that, oh, I don't want to take medication, so I'm going to do holistic, I'll get well, or I'll just take medication. I won't. No, you have to do whatever.
Together.
No,
right.
look,
So I don't know are we going to open up for any questions? I'm sorry, I'm the timekeeper.
Questions put in the chat box.
I have, I've got, and I've answered quite a few of them as well. I'm just going to say to anyone out there feeling, you know, that they obviously didn't get a chance or they didn't want to share their questions or their concerns on the chat box, please feel free to email any of us directly. If it's something big, this is something we will look at then for next month's ADHD support group. And just, I want to remind everyone, this is going to be every second Tuesday of the month. And so we would like to hear from you, and we will implement that.
Yeah, there was a question about ADHD, adult ADHD in the workplace. That's a whole topic, so we'll do it somewhere down the line. And exactly. John also mentioned about the employee. So we just didn't want to answer an isolated question. It will be a whole topic. We'll cover one of the topics. So if you have any topics that you're interested in or you want to know more, just let us know, because we're going to change the topic every month to suit you and to make it easy for you. And we are open to any ideas, even criticism, whatever you want. Thanks.
Yeah, so please put in, send us an email or drop us in the box now, say what you would like us to discuss, because that's ultimately what we want. We want to be practical and helpful to you. And I know it's a hard time, but we can get through it if we all support each other and share each other's ideas, tools, and tips. So thank you, Dr. J. Thank you, Anita, Coach John, Samaya, and Jerry. I really appreciate your time. And I hope to see everybody next week. And please feel free to let us know exactly what you'd like us to cover, and we will definitely do that next time. Thank you, Dr. J. And if you can close off fast.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Goodbye. Thank you. Drop us a note.
Are we staying on a bit, Trace?
Yeah, please. Just on feedback, guys.
Yeah, just on. Yes.
Can I
Coaches?
stop recording as well?
I don't know. Okay, yeah, cool.